Hey everybody, how's it going? Josh here, and today at HN we're going to start some of our Game of Thrones lore videos, but the White Walkers are probably the most feared group of beings in the Game of Thrones franchise. The White Walkers, they're kind of interesting actually, and especially if you study Norse mythology, there's a lot of really interesting stuff about them and the greater Game of Thrones universe, but the White Walkers are an ancient race of humanoids from the north, and they're actually the reason the wall was built. And originally called the Others in the novel A Song of Fire and Ice, their leader is called the Night King, and he's the perceived first White Walker turned into one by the Children of the Forest to originally help serve as their protectors, but they eventually rebel and go their own way, causing chaos and violence everywhere they go. Now their language is called Skroth, and that sounds like the cracking of ice, as described at least as sounding like the cracking of ice on a winter lake. Now to describe them physically speaking, their skin tone is kind of like a grayish white color. For those of them that have hair, it's basically like a wispy white color usually, with that type of appearance as well with the wispy description. And their eyes are glowing blue. So their eyes actually look really cool. The glowing blue eyes is definitely a very iconic part of their appearance, as even before the White Walkers are formally shown to us, the blue eyes were kind of teased here and there. Now, their bodies are physically a lot stronger than normal humans. They can basically take on a bunch of humans at the same time, physically speaking. And regarding a human turning into a White Walker, that can be done either through a special ceremony, kind of what the Children of the Forest did to make the first White Walker. So either through that means or through direct contact with the Night King, who only really applied it to an infant child, but it's possible potentially that he has the abilities to also do it to adults. But inspired by the frost giants from Norse mythology, the White Walkers have magical abilities relating to cold and ice. They can freeze any material, cause temperature drops, create blizzards around them from their appearance, and use ice to form weapons. And these weapons are so powerful that usually they shatter steel and really any other weapon that their opposing foe is using. The things that can go against them is dragon glass and Valyrian steel. And when they have contact with either material, especially in a stabbing type of situation, it causes their bodies to react in such a way that they perceivably internally freeze until the point that they just become so iced up and cold that they shatter. Kind of like glass, if you will. Now they can also raise people and animals from the dead, which is going to be something that's going to be really interesting as we now have a dragon, but they're called wights, spelled W-I-G-H-T. And they are very unusual beings because they serve the White Walkers without hesitation, but they also have the blue eyes, like I said before, the kind of iconic blue eyes for the White Walkers. But like I said, it's going to be really interesting to see them in action in this upcoming season, because not only do we have humans and giants as wights, but now we have dragon. So the Night King's dragon is going to be a really interesting character to see. It's really interesting because the White Walkers are a very ancient race, kind of like I said in the beginning, so a lot of people thought they were a legend in the Game of Thrones universe until they eventually reappeared, and now that the wall is destroyed, it's going to be really interesting to see the full force of these White Walkers in the current day of Game of Thrones. But comment below your guys' thoughts. What do you guys think about this? What would you guys like us to go into in the Game of Thrones lore or Game of Thrones universe in general, either the books more so or the TV show? But comment below your guys' thoughts, and we'll see you guys later.